Supreme Overlord Kryxnax of the Galactic hegemony tapped his tentacle impatiently against the control panel of his flagship, the Bureaucracy. His compound eyes narrowed as he stared at the blue and green orb floating in the view screen before him. Finally, after eons of conquering thousands of worlds, we've reached the legendary planet Earth, he exclaimed, his voice echoing through the bridge. First Officer Zolforian raised an eyebrow stalk. My lord, is this truly necessary? Our empire spans half the known universe. Surely this backwater world can't be worth our time. Kryxnax spun around, his imperial robes swirling dramatically. You fool! Earth is the ultimate prize. Legend says their bureaucracy is so impenetrable, so maddeningly complex, that it has repelled countless would-be conquerors. If we can master their systems, no administrative challenge in the cosmos will ever stand in our way again. Zolforian sighed, adjusting his translator module. As you wish, my lord. Shall I prepare the invasion fleet? Invasion fleet? Ah, we're not barbarians, Zolforian. We'll do this by the book. Prepare my finest paperwork and ready the delegation shuttle. Hours later, Kryxnax found himself in a stuffy office deep within the bowels of the United Nations building in New York. Across from him sat Bernice Thornberry, a bespectacled woman with a severe bun and an even more severe expression. Now then, Mr. Kryxnax, was it? Bernice peered at him over her glasses. Supreme Overlord Kryxnax of the Galactic hegemony, he corrected, trying to maintain his air of superiority despite being crammed into a too-small chair clearly designed for human posteriors. Bernice hummed, unimpressed. And you're here to conquer Earth, is that right? Kryxnax puffed out his chest sacs. Indeed. We come to claim your world and add its bureaucratic might to our own. Bernice's expression didn't change. I see. Well, you'll need to fill out these forms. She plopped a stack of papers a foot high onto the desk. Forms? Kryxnax's eye stalks wobbled in confusion. But we're here to conquer you, be that as it may. Bernice replied crisply. Proper procedure must be followed. Form GL 7781. B. Application for extraterrestrial conquest. Form ENV 338. Environmental impact assessment of planetary takeover. Oh, and don't forget the W. 9 for our tax records. Kryxnax's tentacles trembled as he reached for the first form. But we have antimatter cannons trained on your major cities. Bernice sked disapprovingly. Now. Threats will get you nowhere. Besides, you'll need to file for a permit for those. Do you have receipts? We'll need them for the tariff calculations. As Kryxnax began to fill out the first of many forms, he couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps, just perhaps, he had underestimated the challenge that lay before him. The tiny part of his brain, not overwhelmed by bureaucratic dread, wondered if this was how every would-be conqueror's ambitions had died. Not with a bang, but with a whimper and a request for additional copies in triplicate. Oh, and one more thing, Bernice added, her tone unchanging. Do you have an appointment? Kryxnax's anguished cry of no echoed through the building, causing a nearby intern to spill coffee on an important treaty. In the grand scheme of things, it was just another day at the office. 3 Earth weeks had passed since Supreme Overlord Kryxnax's first encounter with human bureaucracy, and the situation had only grown more dire. The once mighty conqueror now found himself hunched over a rickety folding table in a dimly lit basement of the United Nations, surrounded by towers of paperwork that threatened to topple at any moment. Form 27B/6? What in the name of the celestial void is a stroke in this context? Kryxnax muttered, his eye stalks twitching with fatigue. Nearby, First Officer Zolforian was engaged in an epic battle with an ancient Earth contraption known as a fax machine. The device emitted a series of ear-piercing shrieks that set Zolforian's nerve endings on fire. My lord, Zolforian called out, his voice tinged with desperation. I believe this infernal machine is mocking me. It devoured our conquest proposal and regurgitated it as this. He held up a paper covered in indecipherable black smudges. KRYX-Nax slithered over, his many tentacles leaving trails in the thick layer of dust coating the floor. Incomprehensible. Is this some form of human encryption? A throat cleared behind them. They turned to see Bernice Thornberry, looking as unflappable as ever. "Gentlemen," she said, though her tone suggested she used the term loosely, "I'm afraid there's been an issue with your paperwork." "What?" KRYX-Nax bellowed, causing a nearby stack of forms to collapse in a papery avalanche. "We've done nothing but paperwork for weeks." Bernice adjusted her glasses. "Yes, well, it seems you filled out the GL 7781B forms using blue ink. We only accept black ink. You'll need to redo them all." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the continued shrieking of the fax machine and the distant sobbing of a junior alien bureaucrat who'd been tasked with deciphering the human tax code. This is madness," Zilforian exclaimed. "Surely there must be a faster way. What if we were to offer you advanced technology?" He produced a sleek device from his robes. "This can process a quintillion calculations per nanosecond." Bernice eyed the device warily. "Does it run on Windows 95? What? No. It's powered by a miniature neutron star. Pity. Our systems aren't compatible with anything post 1998. Security reasons, you understand. You'll have to enter all the data manually." KRYX-Nax's color shifted to a deep shade of frustration purple. "Enough! We are the Galactic Hegemony. We have conquered star systems, tamed black holes, and brought entire civilizations to their knees. Surely we can handle a little paperwork." Bernice's lip twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Of course. Just fill out these request forms to requisition more request forms, and we'll get you started on the preliminary pre-application for the application to apply for conquest consideration." As Bernice dropped another mountain of papers onto their table, KRYX-Nax and Zilforian shared a look of utter defeat. The Supreme Overlord's mighty tentacles, capable of crushing titanium, now trembled as they reached for yet another pen. "Zilforian," KRYX-Nax whispered, his voice hoarse, "I fear we may have miscalculated. These humans, their bureaucratic powers are beyond our comprehension." Zilforian nodded grimly, his eye stalks drooping. "Indeed, my lord. Perhaps we should have tried invading that nice Class 7 plasma storm instead. I hear it's lovely this time of year." As they turned back to their Sisyphean task, a new sound joined the cacophony of the basement, the unmistakable drone of a printer running out of toner. Somewhere in the distance, an earth pigeon cooed, blissfully unaware of the cosmic comedy unfolding beneath its feet. The great galactic hegemony, terror of 1,000 star systems, had met its match in the labyrinthine corridors of human red tape. And they weren't even halfway through the table of contents. Supreme Overlord KRYX-Nax stared at the vending machine with a mixture of confusion and rage. His tentacles hovered over the buttons, unsure which to press. "Confound this primitive nutrient dispenser," he bellowed. "How does one extract sustenance from this diabolical contraption?" A passing human intern paused, coffee mug in hand. "Oh, that? You just put in $1 and press the button for what you want." KRYX-Nax's eye stalk swiveled towards the intern. $1? Is this some form of ritual sacrifice? The intern stifled a laugh. "No, it's money. You know, currency? Preposterous. The galactic hegemony abolished currency eons ago. We operate on a system of favor trading and intimidation." The intern shrugged. "Well, good luck intimidating the vending machine. Maybe try shaking it." As KRYX-Nax engaged in an epic battle with the unyielding snack dispenser, First Officer Zilforian burst into the break room, his antennae quivering with excitement. "My lord, I've made a BREAKTHROUGH," he exclaimed, waving a crumpled piece of paper. KRYX-Nax abandoned his war with the vending machine. "Speak, Zilforian. What revelations have you uncovered?" "I've deciphered the human's secret communication code." "Observe!" Zilforian proudly held up the paper, which was covered in crude drawings of smiley faces, cats, and what appeared to be an eggplant. "Astounding. But what does it mean?" The intern, who had been watching this exchange with growing amusement, interjected. Those are just emojis. We use them in texts and emails. KRYX-Nax's tentacles writhed in confusion. Texts? Emails? Are these your planet's sacred texts? No, they're just, you know what? Never mind. The intern decided it was too early in the day for this and retreated to the relative sanity of his cubicle. Meanwhile, in a nearby conference room, a cultural exchange seminar was underway. Bernice Thornberry stood at the front, addressing a mix of human bureaucrats and bewildered alien delegates. Now then, Bernice droned. Let's discuss proper etiquette for interspecies meetings. First rule, no matter how tempted you are, do not attempt to consume your colleagues. A collective groan rose from the alien section. One particularly grumpy-looking being with more teeth than seemed strictly necessary grumbled. But what if they're really annoying? Bernice's eyes narrowed. I assure you, Mr. Nashter, that cannibalism is frowned upon in all departments, even human resources. As the seminar dragged on, covering everything from proper form-filling posture to the intricate dance of office politics, the aliens found themselves more and more perplexed. You mean to tell me, one gelatinous entity burbled, that you don't decide promotions through ritual combat? A human HR representative sighed. No, for the last time. We use performance reviews and nepotism like civilized beings. The cultural clashes weren't limited to the office. In the parking lot, a group of alien engineers stared in horror at the humans' primary mode of transportation. They propel themselves using controlled explosions? One engineer shrieked, pointing at a car. How has this species not annihilated itself? Back in the break room, KRYX-Nax had finally succeeded in obtaining a snack from the vending machine, though not in the way anyone had anticipated. The machine lay on its side, sparking slightly, while the Supreme Overlord triumphantly clutched a slightly crushed bag of chips. Victory, he proclaimed, ripping open the bag with his teeth. His triumph was short-lived, however, as he immediately began coughing and sputtering. By the cosmic void, what manner of chemical warfare is this? Zolforian cautiously sniffed the bag. I believe, my lord, that it's something called Cool Ranch. As the day wore on, both humans and aliens found themselves increasingly baffled by each other's customs and behaviors. The humans couldn't understand why the aliens insisted on communicating important information through interpretive dance, while the aliens were mystified by the humans' obsession with discussing the weather and something called weekend plans. By the time evening fell, both sides retreated to their respective quarters, thoroughly exhausted and questioning the wisdom of this entire endeavor. KRYX-Nax, nursing a severe case of indigestion from his encounter with Earth snacks, gazed out at the New York skyline. Zolforian, he mumbled. I'm beginning to think these humans might be the most terrifying species we've ever encountered. Zolforian nodded solemnly. Indeed, my lord, who knew that the true face of horror would be a PowerPoint presentation on proper cover sheet protocol? As they contemplated the bizarre intricacies of human culture, neither of them noticed the small paper airplane that sailed through the window, landing at their feet. On it was scrawled a message that would change everything. Fed up with red tape? Meeting in the basement midnight. Bring snacks, not from the vending machine. The stage was set for an unexpected alliance, born from the shared frustration of bureaucratic hell. Little did they know, the greatest challenge was yet to come. As the clock struck midnight, Supreme Overlord KRYX-Nax and First Officer Zolforian cautiously made their way to the basement of the UN building. Clutched in KRYX-Nax's tentacles was a box of donuts, a peace offering suggested by a sympathetic janitor who had witnessed the vending machine incident. The basement was dimly lit, filled with the hum of ancient machinery and the musty smell of long-forgotten paperwork. As they rounded a corner, they found themselves face-to-face with a motley crew of humans and aliens, all wearing expressions of equal parts exhaustion and determination. Welcome to the Resistance, said a voice from the shadows. A human stepped forward. It was Bob from accounting, his tie askew and a wild look in his eyes. We're the ones who've had enough of this bureaucratic nightmare. KRYX-Nax's eye stalks quivered with surprise. You mean, you humans also struggle with your own systems? A chorus of bitter laughter filled the room. An alien that looked like a sentient fern waved its fronds in frustration. Struggle? I've been trying to get approval for a parking space for 3 galactic cycles. Bob nodded grimly. And I've been waiting for IT to update my computer since the Obama administration. We may come from different worlds, but we're united by a common enemy: red tape. As the group shared their bureaucratic horror stories, a strange sense of camaraderie began to form. Humans and aliens alike found common ground in their shared frustrations. So, Zilforian ventured, what's the plan? How do we overcome this administrative apocalypse? A bespectacled human woman, Janet from HR, stepped forward, clutching a massive binder. I've been compiling this for years. It's every loophole, every obscure rule, every contradiction in the system. With this knowledge, we can beat them at their own game. The assembled group leaned in, eyes wide, those who had eyes at least, as Janet began to outline her master plan. First, she whispered conspiratorially, we're going to need a lot of coffee. What followed was a montage of teamwork that would have brought a tear to the eye of any management consultant. Humans taught aliens the fine art of passive-aggressive email writing. Aliens introduced humans to quantum computing, exponentially speeding up their ability to fill out forms. Together, they constructed a device that could automatically generate cover sheets for TPS reports. As dawn broke, the unlikely allies emerged from the basement, armed with knowledge, determination, and enough caffeinated beverages to fuel a small country. Remember the plan? Bob hissed as they dispersed to their respective departments. Operation Bureaucratic Blitzkrieg begins at noon. The day that followed would go down in galactic history. It began with a simple request. KRYXNAX, armed with Janet's binder of loopholes, approached Bernice Thornberry's desk. I require Form X 91/Omega, he stated, trying to keep his tentacles from trembling. Bernice's eyebrow rose a fraction of an inch, the closest she ever came to showing surprise. That form hasn't been used in 50 years. It's obsolete. KRYXNAX's eyes glittered triumphantly. But according to subsection 7, paragraph 3 of the Intergalactic Cooperation Treaty of 2031, all forms must be kept in circulation for a minimum of 75 years. For the first time in recorded history, Bernice Thornberry was speechless. Across the building, similar scenes played out. The alien engineer finally got his parking space by invoking an obscure bylaw about non-terrestrial vehicle accommodation. Bob from accounting managed to upgrade the entire IT system by exploiting a clause about technological parity in interspecies workplaces. As the day wore on, the bureaucratic stronghold began to crumble. Efficiency broke out in pockets, spreading like wildfire. Files were processed in minutes instead of months. Decisions were made without the need for 17 committee meetings. By late afternoon, chaos reigned, but it was a productive chaos. The once imposing walls of red tape were reduced to confetti. In the midst of it all stood KRYXNAX and his human allies, surveying the scene with a mixture of awe and disbelief. We did it, Bob breathed, his tie now fashioned into a makeshift headband. We actually did it. KRYXNAX's tentacles waved in what might have been a victory dance. Indeed, we have conquered the unconquerable. The galactic hegemony salutes you, humans. As the dust settled, however, a new realization dawned on both humans and aliens alike. They had dismantled the very system they had been fighting against and fighting over. Now what? Zilforian voiced what everyone was thinking. My lord, if we've eliminated the bureaucracy, what exactly are we going to do with this planet? KRYXNAX's eyes swiveled as he pondered this unexpected turn of events. The humans tensed, wondering if they had inadvertently paved the way for their own conquest. But before anyone could speak, a new voice cut through the silence. I believe, said Bernice Thornberry, emerging from her office with an uncharacteristic gleam in her eye, that I have a proposition for all of you. The unlikely allies gathered around, unaware that they were about to embark on the most ambitious project in galactic history, one that would reshape the very nature of intergalactic governance. As Bernice began to outline her vision, a shared thought passed through every mind, human and alien alike. Maybe, just maybe, they had found something far more valuable than conquest. They had found a way to cut through the BS of the universe itself. Bernice Thornberry stood before the assembled crowd of humans and aliens, her typically stern demeanor replaced by an almost mischievous glint in her eye. The conference room, hastily repurposed from its former life as a storage area for outdated fax machines, buzzed with anticipation. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted cosmic entities," Bernice began, adjusting her glasses. "We stand at the precipice of a new era. Our little rebellion has exposed not just the flaws in our systems, but the universal nature of bureaucratic nonsense." Supreme Overlord KRYX Nax's tentacles wriggled with excitement. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting, Earth Bernice?" She nodded, a rare smile cracking her usually stony facade. "Indeed, Lord KRYX Nax. I propose we take our newfound alliance and streamline processes Galactic." The room erupted in a cacophony of cheers, otherworldly screeches, and the sound of one particularly enthusiastic alien's exoskeleton molting from sheer joy. Bob from accounting leapt onto a chair, his tie now fashioned into a bandana. "Death to unnecessary paperwork," he bellowed, brandishing a stapler like a warhammer. Now, Bernice chided, though not unkindly. "Let's not get carried away. We're not eliminating bureaucracy entirely. We're making it work for us." And so began the most ambitious administrative overhaul in the history of the cosmos. The unlikely team of human paper pushers and alien conquerors set about creating a new system of intergalactic governance that would streamline cooperation between worlds while maintaining just enough red tape to keep things interesting. KRYX Nax, with his millennia of conquest experience, provided invaluable insight into the diverse needs of different species. "Remember," he cautioned during one particularly heated debate, "the Glupians of Nebula X-7 communicate entirely through interpretive dance. We'll need to account for that in our new intergalactic Zoom call protocols." Zolforian, meanwhile, threw himself into the task of creating a universal filing system. "Eureka!" he shouted one day, emerging from a cocoon of shredded papers. "I've got it! We'll use a base 37 alphanumeric system combined with quantum entanglement for instant cross-galaxy access." The humans brought their own unique skills to the table. Janet from HR developed a comprehensive guide to interspecies sensitivity training, which included such crucial chapters as why you shouldn't eat your coworkers, even if they're delicious, and proper etiquette for beings with variable concepts of time. Months passed in a blur of activity. The basement of the UN building became the unlikely birthplace of a new galactic order. Coffee was consumed by the tanker load, pizza deliveries reached interplanetary proportions, and more than one alien had to be gently reminded that the office plants were not, in fact, evolving coworkers. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and no time at all, it was ready. The great galactic reform was unveiled to the cosmos at large. The reaction was mixed. Some worlds embraced the new system with open arms or tentacles or pseudopods. Others viewed it with suspicion, certain it was some sort of elaborate prank by the cosmic trickster god they'd heard so much about. There were, of course, challenges. The first intergalactic conference call was a disaster, with half the participants appearing upside down and one unfortunate delegate from a gas giant world accidentally leaving their atmosphere on mute for the entire session. But slowly, surely, things began to improve. Trade agreements that once took decades to negotiate were now completed in weeks. Scientific cooperation flourished as researchers could finally share their findings without having to fill out Form QX 7823B in triplicate. Even the galactic hegemony found itself changing. KRYX Nax, much to his own surprise, discovered he had a talent for diplomacy that far outshone his conquering skills. Who knew, he mused one day to Zolforian, that signing peace treaties could be even more satisfying than planetary subjugation? Zolforian nodded sagely. "Indeed, my lord, though I must admit, I do miss the occasional death ray barrage. For old time's sake, you understand." As for Earth, it found itself thrust into a new role as the bureaucratic capital of the galaxy. Aliens from across the cosmos flocked to New York, eager to learn the ancient human arts of water cooler gossip and passive-aggressive post-it notes. Bernice Thornberry, hailed as the architect of this new age, took it all in stride. When asked by an awestruck alien journalist how she felt about her newfound galactic fame, she simply replied, "Well, someone had to sort out this mess. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a 3 o'clock with the hive mind of Beetlejuice about their overdue library books." And so, the great comedy of errors that had begun with an attempted conquest ended with something far more powerful. A universe united not by force or fear, but by a shared hatred of inefficient bureaucracy. As KRYX-Nax gazed out at the star-filled sky from his new office in the Intergalactic Cooperation Tower, formerly known as the Empire State Building, he couldn't help but chuckle. "You know, Zolforian," he mused, "I think we may have accidentally created something truly spectacular here." Zolforian nodded, idly stamping a form with one tentacle while sipping earth coffee with another. "Indeed, my lord. Who would have thought that the key to universal harmony was hidden in a filing cabinet all along?" As if on cue, a distant cry echoed through the building. Who took the last space donut? Some things, it seemed, truly were universal. And so, the cosmos continued to spin, its vast expanses now crisscrossed not just by stars and planets, but by an invisible web of efficiently processed paperwork and perfectly timed coffee breaks. It wasn't perfect, but then again, nothing in this universe ever is. But it was progress. One form, one handshake, one hilariously misunderstood alien idiom at a time.